All right, let's work on finding the equation for a line through 2 points in slope-intercept form. Because of y, I've picked some points here that are going to make a nice y-intercept for us. Otherwise, I would probably be going with the point slope form in the previous video. So, first thing we need to do if we're going to do this is figure out what the slope is. So I'm going to make an xy table. I've got a -7 as an input leads to an output of 8, and an input of 7 leads to an output of 2. And so to get from 8 to 2, my up and down directions here would require subtracting 6. To get from -7 to 7 would require subtracting 14. And we give up and down directions divided by left and right directions. -6 over 14 we can reduce to -3 over 7. Okay, so our slope is -3/7. Since the slope-intercept form looks like y equals mx plus b, if we start with an x, the first thing that's going on is we're multiplying by m, which is the slope. And our slope, in this case, we just figured out was -3 over 7. And then we're going to be adding something on there. We're going to do a plus b. And some of the x's that we have, for example, I'll go ahead and start with the -7. If we do -7 times 3/7, so -3/7 times -7, negative times negative will be a positive. 3 times 7 is 21 over 7, which gives us a 3. So -7 times -3/7 gives us a 3. Our goal output here is an 8. And so what do we have to add on to 3 to get an 8? Well, the b must be a 5. And so our equation now, when we start with the x, we do x and we multiply by -3/7 and add 5 onto that. That gets us to the end of the arrow, which is where y is, and there is an equation in slope-intercept form for one that works out with a nice y-intercept. That went pretty quick, so I'm going to go ahead and randomly pick some points here as a second example and show what would happen if it doesn't work out that nice, and how we would do that, and maybe justify why point slope is maybe a better way to go to begin with. So let's go with -5, 17, and 2, -1. That ought to be reasonably ugly for us. So again, we want a y equals mx plus b, and so we need the m. And our slope, we'll make the xy table here again. -5 as an input leads to an output of 17. Input of 2 gives me an output of -1. To get from 17 to -1, I would have to subtract 18. To get from -5 to 2, I would have to add 7. Up and down directions divided by left and right directions. My slope is -18/7. So starting from the x here, my first step is going to be to multiply by -18 over 7. And then I'll be adding some b value on there. And this has to take me from, they've got a little bit smaller numbers here. So the 2 has to eventually become a -1. 2 times -18/7. -18 over 7 times 2. Negative times a positive is going to be a negative. 2 times 18 is 36 over 7, which does not reduce. So this is a -36 over 7. And so what this is telling me is I've got to, given a -36 over 7, I have to add something on there to get to -1. And so to get the b by itself, I have to add negative 36 over 7 to both sides. It might be easier if I thought of my negative 1 as a negative 7 over 7. So negative 7 divided by 7 is also negative 1. Now I have a common denominator. 36 take away 7 is 29 over 7 would be my b value. So this b is 29 over 7. And so substituting into my y equals mx plus b, or starting with the x here, I start with the x, multiply by negative 18 over 7, add 29 over 7. That's the y at the end, and so there is my slope-intercept equation using a little bit of arrow diagrams along the way.